How's it going, you guys? So, I'm out here, just woke up, drinking some badass yerba mate. Great fucking weather. And I wanted to talk a little bit about dopamine, simply because it is the most important neurotransmitter involved in human behavior. And anybody who's interested in self-improvement or bettering themselves, or who just seeks happiness in general, or seeks achievement in any field or any aspect of their life, must understand dopamine. It's one of the very first things that I think most people, especially health professionals, especially involved in mental health, should be focused on. So, what is dopamine? So, essentially, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is involved in seeking rewards. That's what its main function is. Okay, so a lot of people, they have a misunderstanding of what dopamine is. They think that it is the reward chemical. They think that it brings you feelings of pleasure. The fact of the matter is, endorphins bring you feelings of pleasure, and serotonin tends to bring feelings of contentment, but also lethargy, depression, and sentimental feelings is what serotonin really is. But dopamine is truthfully the seeking of rewards. That's what dopamine is all about, okay? And so, if you want to know what dopamine feels like, if you've ever, I don't know, like read a textbook, like for an exam. Let's say you're trying to cram study time for an exam, and you're seeking information through your textbook. Only the most important information that's going to help you with your exam. Okay, that's dopamine that is fueling your seeking of important information. Okay, if it wasn't for dopamine, you would just be laying in bed doing fucking nothing. Okay, dopamine is about the seeking of rewards, the seeking of information. It is the seeking of an endpoint, period. So that what that means is, if you want to achieve any kind of goal, no matter what it is, dopamine is a neurotransmitter that's going to get you there. So with that being said, what dictates your seeking and what your dopamine is programmed towards, whether you are seeking rewards in the sense of scrolling through the Facebook news feed, looking for new novel posts and novel information that you haven't seen before, which is ineffective dopamine, or reading a book, having concentrated focus, and seeking that end result of finishing the book, or more so long-term gratification. Your dopamine can be programmed towards the seeking of a new job, right? And actually going out to those interviews and taking action and doing the best that you can to actually get that job. Or let's say you're a salesperson. Long-term effective dopamine is wired, in this case, towards, let's say you're a salesperson, getting new clientele, getting new people to sell your product to. And dopamine, if it's programmed in a healthy, effective way, is a neurotransmitter that's going to help you effectively sell your product and put your very best energy and concentration into that beneficial craft. Okay? So essentially it's your reward center. And in order to program dopamine effectively, you have to understand neuroplasticity, essentially. And basically, neurons that fire together wire together. Okay, this is a big concept of neuroplasticity. Whatever you do on a consistent basis is what your brain starts to permeate. It starts to create longer lasting connections to make you want to do it more often. So dopamine is not only the neurotransmitter involved in seeking information, but it's the neurotransmitter involved in making you want to repeat a behavior over and over again to achieve a reward. Okay? And so in regards to short-term gratification, like checking your phone for a comment on social media, that's a very common short-term gratification. Or masturbating to pornography, jacking off. Those are short-term dopamine rewards, okay? Dopamine pathways. Long-term dopamine would be, like I said, putting your very best effort into your career. So if you are constantly engaging in short-term gratification, you're programming your dopamine to never want to create YouTube videos on a regular basis to achieve a greater subscriber base, for example. If you're constantly indulging in short-term gratification, you're literally programming your mind to want to repeat that behavior over and over again to seek that short-term reward. This is what's fueling drug addiction. People's dopamine is programmed towards taking a substance to get that hit of dopamine, to feel good, okay? Sorry, I'm shaking a little bit because it's chilly outside, I suppose. Most people wear coats and winter clothing, but I don't, because I want hormesis. I want to adapt to my environmental stressors. Anyway, long-term gratification, if you discipline yourself to avoid the short term, you can deprogram your dopamine pathways, okay, your neural pathways. You can deprogram your neural pathways to seek gratification in the short term. And when you deprogram that habit, you've got to actually replace it with a better habit. Okay, don't think in terms of, removing the addiction. Think in terms of replacing the addiction. That's key. Because whatever neural pathway you remove has to be replaced with another wiring of neurons, another neural pathway. And if it's not, you will relapse every fucking time. That's key in solving addiction. And all short-term gratification is addiction. Okay? Pornography, masturbation, Facebook, Instagram, Netflix even. Video games, not to say that these are all bad. Drugs, sugar, junk food, processed food. There's a reason why I seldom eat junk food, and for years I ate zero junk food. Zero. For years. For at least 2 years, I strictly only drank caffeine from tea. I only ate unprocessed whole organic foods that I thought were the healthiest at the time. And I completely removed all junk because it didn't serve me, because I knew that its gratification was short-lived. And I knew that the only reason I craved that junk food is because my dopamine pathways were wired towards that addictive, negative behavior. 99.9% of people in society are living their life to get that short-term dopamine hit. They're living an unconscious life of negativity and don't even realize it. This is the power of dopamine. It's what all advertisers, internet, these giant tech corporations, they take advantage of it. Junk food corporations take advantage of it. Pharmaceutical industry takes advantage of it. Why the fuck would you go on a low-carb diet, lose weight, and eat healthy when you could just get on metformin to treat your diabetes? Why would you, supplement with fish oil, try out, nutraceuticals? Why would you take fish oil? Why would you eat healthy? Why would you read the book The Ultramind Solution by Mark Hyman? Why would you exercise? Why would you do any of that when you can just take an antidepressant and then your problem be gone with that magic pill? This is exactly the reason why people make excuses not to change. Their dopamine is wired to make for everything to be easy and convenient. Their dopamine pathways are wired towards short-term gratification. So understanding dopamine is extremely important for overcoming addictions in this way. You got to understand that it's dopamine that's making you seek that reward, and the benefit of that reward, whether it's short-term or long-term success, is completely dependent on what you're wiring your dopamine towards, and it's never stagnant. If you wire your dopamine, let's say that you're going to school and whatnot, and you're studying for an exam, and you're putting all your concentrated effort into school. Sure, you're wiring your dopamine towards long-term gratification, but if intermittently you check your Facebook every 30 minutes while you're studying, you're sending mixed signals to your dopamine. The more you check your Facebook and allow yourself to be distracted in exams, the more likely your dopamine pathways are going to wire themselves towards distraction and short-term gratification. Conversely, the same is true for the other way. If you dedicate yourself to study for long stretches of time without being distracted, your dopamine is going to wire itself in that way. And it's either going in one direction or the other. And so, there's many ways that you can enhance dopamine and make it... There's many ways that you can conquer dopamine, let's put it that way. The first one is removing short-term gratification to the greatest extent that is realistic, okay? There's people that talk about dopamine fasting, where they completely remove all external stimulation completely, and they include food. They don't eat food or anything like that. I think that's extreme, but I think that might be a good idea, like once a month or something. Maybe do a 2 day, do 1 day where you do a complete dopamine fast, and then the second day you eat food, but the rest is out of the picture. But I don't think that's necessary unless you are suffering from an extreme addiction. It probably would be. Like people who tell me that they want to kill themselves because of porn addiction and whatnot. Yeah, you need to definitely conquer your dopamine in the most extreme way possible. But other ways that the better way is probably just to remove things like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, for a period of time. Now, understand that there are beneficial uses of these things. So, for example, like the worst dopamine habit you can have is novelty, okay? When you're on Facebook and you're scrolling through the news feed, that's horrible. But if you're on Facebook and you're messaging a friend through Messenger, that's different. Or if you get on Facebook just to update your status and then you get off of it, that's fine. It's the concentration of one thing for a long period that you want to focus on. That's training your brain to be able to focus for long periods of time. But when you get on Facebook to post a status, you may not realize it, but unconsciously, it's going to, your brain is going to automatically try to scroll the newsfeed almost every time. And that's because technology companies like Facebook and whatnot, Mike Zuckerberg, they really invest millions of dollars into making the product as addictive as possible so that you can make money from advertisements. Or give them money from advertisements. So you might find it hard to just get on Facebook to do what you got to do and then take off. But the point here is there is an effective way to use these platforms without hijacking your brain. And so it's novelty-seeking behavior you got to remove. Scrolling, you got to remove. Anything that is multitasking. So another example is video games might not be the greatest use of your time, but at the very least, they can train your brain to focus on one thing for a very long period of time. Again, the worst thing you can do is novelty-seeking behavior. Okay, video games are kind of like watching a movie, but it's better because you're actually involved in that movie, taking action and manipulating the story. So, interestingly enough, I've noticed if I allow myself to indulge in novelty-seeking behavior like Facebook, Instagram, and these scrolling behaviors, even reading articles on the internet now because they have so many hyperlinks. Again, I talk about this all the time. The first paragraph of the article is going to have like 5 different links to different articles in the first paragraph. You could literally read an article and then click on a link in the first paragraph, never finish reading that article, and you just, before you know it, you've literally clicked on 20 links and haven't read one article yet. That's horrible for dopamine. So instead, read the entire article and then go link by link. But every single link you click, and if you know what I'm talking about, like nutrition articles and things, it's a never-ending spiral of hyperlinks. Even researching these days, scientific articles are going to produce that same behavior. It's very hard with the internet these days to stay focused. But removing as much as realistically possible that novelty-seeking behavior is the number one thing you can do. You get on, you read a book. Like I was saying, sorry, I noticed that when I allow myself to do that and indulge in that behavior for a long period of time, I find that I can't even focus on reading a book. In fact, I find I can't even focus on a video game, something that's supposed to be a short-term dopamine type behavior that's supposed to give you like happiness and or gratification, or not happiness but pleasure. I notice I can't even enjoy video games because I'll open up a video game, and within like 10 minutes of playing it, I lose interest because my brain is programmed to the Facebook news feed where every 5 seconds there's a new article. So I'll be playing a video game, and after 5 minutes of playing it, I want to play something else, and then I'll be like, all right, cool. Open up that other video game that I thought I wanted to play. 5 minutes later, I want another one. I can't focus on just one, even on something like video games, right? And so people find it very hard to maintain social interactions, right? Because every 5 minutes or so, they lose their focus. They check their phone. And that's disgusting, that your mind is hijacked. You don't even fucking realize it. And it's ruining your ability to connect with other human beings. So anyway, that's the long stretch of dopamine. If you guys have any more questions, I mean, there's plenty more to talk about, a lot more to get into this. Like the difference between natural stimulation of dopamine and then abnormal stimulation of dopamine that our brain's not evolved for. But these are the basics and the most tangible, practical uses of it. So leave your questions, comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you next time.